I do small excavating. I don't play with the big boys. They have their own game. We do all the work that they don't want to do. Mostly skid loader, small excavator work. Basically what a lot of the like finished stuff, they may rough something in and then they'll tell us to go in and do the small work. The finish grading, finish seeding. We also do a lot of soil and water, grass waterways, open ditches, road ditches for the county and township. I mean, that's pretty much our nuts and bolts. Yeah, I want to stay in a niche. We do really well in that niche. There's very little competition in the niche, so that allows us to be very profitable. The big guys have what they do, we do what we do, and it doesn't seem like anybody wants to get into what we do. They all want to chase the big jobs, and we found it way better to just run where we're running, kind of the in-between. We don't really have no permitting, no working around somebody else's schedule. It's our schedule from the time we start to the time we stop. It's a kind of a nice, relaxed business to be in. Everybody's very happy when we show up because we're there to fix the problem. And we go in, fix the problem, and they're thrilled with us while we're there. They're thrilled to pay us when we're done. So it's kind of the win-win of all worlds, I guess. I was hired by the township, who was pushed by the county to clean up an old railroad viaduct. The road went up over the old railroad tracks. It was actually going to be, and it is, an extension to the cemetery. So it's the township's property. I had to take down 11.5 feet at the highest point. We started in with a mini excavator, digging it all down, and I realized real quick that wasn't going to work. So it worked in the beginning when I had a place to lose the dirt, but I was jumping in and out of machines, shoving it down. We went to a dirt bucket with teeth to try to shove it, to dig up the hard clay and shove it down. And that worked to an extent until it got so far to push it that I literally was running out of time. It was getting close to winter. So I went to the township and said, there's no way I can finish it this year. I'm going to have to do it next year. We got the tile in, got it all bedded down. I jumped on the internet, started looking, ran across your YouTube page, found the Groundhog, and watched the video, and it looked too good to be true, to be honest with you. After a lot of research on the internet and looking, I finally decided that I was going to try one. Got a hold of Dayton Tractor, got it home, went up there and started cutting and couldn't believe it. Like I told you earlier, we were moving 2.5 to 3 buckets to every bucket I had before in the same amount of time. So I created a path to get down. We'd eat up the road, take it down the ditch and drop it in until we got all 11.5 feet down. That's a lot of dirt to move with a skid loader. And that was the beginning. So from that point on, I added laser to it, found out I could do grassed waterways and open ditches and road ditches, and it's just completely exploded. Basically, when I bought it, the whole specific purpose was to get that road cut down. While I was cutting that road, the neighboring farmer, who could see me all day running, drove up in his utility vehicle and watched me run, and he said, hey, I've got a waterway I want you to repair. I didn't know anything about repairing waterways. We went and looked at it together. I said, I can try. I don't know how well this is going to work. We dropped in, and I think I know we did it all in one day, but I think in about 4 hours I had all of the pan work done. So he right then said, you need to go see Soil and Water and start putting in waterways, because you did it faster than anybody I've ever seen do it. It's just one of those things that we kind of lucked into, I guess. The road led to him. He pushed me to do the waterway. Then he went and had me do surface drains. Then those two jobs combined kind of led to the road ditch work. And I guess the rest is history. I mean, we went from 1 pan to 2 pans, and then I bought the 50 to try to move bigger amounts of dirt ahead of these pans. So it's been a good deal. And it's kind of, once I had it, then people are coming to me saying, do you think you can do this with it? Or do you think you can do that with it? And sometimes I had to say, I don't know, we'll just have to go try. You know, obviously the easy things are eating down a hillside or a road ditch. That made sense. Then it went into building pads and parking lots, roads. I've got to went and looked last night, I got to do 1,600 feet of roads in a cemetery. They're wanting to add on to their cemetery, so we'll go in, cut it all out with the pans, fill it full of stone, and we're done. You know, in the 2.5 yards is in one pan. When we're running 2 pans, we're running 5 yards. So running 2 pans, 5 yards versus their 10, 12, 15, you know, however big a scraper they have. There's very little disturbance. We don't need a large turning radius. We turn around literally within our own length. Way less cleanup, way less crop damage because all of these get put in during crop season. Sometimes the guys will plant wheat. That'll give you enough room to get in and turn around, but wheat is getting very scarce around this area. Nobody really plants it anymore. So the big thing is soil compaction. We get probably, I would bet half of the work we get is because the farmer doesn't want soil compaction. So we get contacted, we make a very small footprint where we don't take up a lot of damage, we don't damage their crops, and with the lack of soil compaction, they can go in, do a little bit of tillage and they're done, versus a great big self-propelled scraper or a 20-yard scraper. Those things are really creating a lot of compaction, and there's a lot of studies being done about compaction in crops, and we're a non-issue when it comes to that. So that's been huge. It's changed it dramatically from the standpoint that before you're getting hired to do the job, and it's like you're saying, it's a cleanup job, it's a mowing job, it's a fence row job. Most of the people that were hiring me may have part of the equipment to do that job. So you may get part of the job, they're in there working with you, which is fine, I have no problem with that. But with the Groundhog work, it's allowed me to add another person. It's the reason I went to 2 skid loaders instead of 1 skid loader. When I started, it was just me, a mini excavator, and a skid loader, and a few attachments. Once I added the Groundhog, I had to add the second skid loader right away because we couldn't keep up. Then I added the second pan right away. Then I couldn't keep up, so now I bought a tractor in the 50, and I still can't keep up. It just, I guess, and I'm not trying to brag it up, but it just exploded the business. I mean, it totally, we went from cleaning up here, there, and hey, somebody'd call, now you have to get on a list, and I'll try to get to you as quick as I can. Before I would be maybe a month out. Now I'm 2 years behind. And I don't work, really, I try to stay within a 15-mile radius of my house. So it's not that we're 2 years behind and traveling all over the state of Ohio. We're in a we try to work in half our county. So that keeps our costs down, and like I said, we're swamped, so we just kind of keep going with that. The biggest thing, I guess, with the Groundhog is that we shape so much ground. That's what we love to do. Pete and I both, we don't really like to put tile in because when we're done, you can't see it. When I get done cutting a swale and we groom around somebody's house or around a farm or a barn, it's all done and you can see it, and you can see it work, and you can watch the water go around. We put in a parking lot. You get a park on it when you go to the next ball game. We build a barn pad. You get to go see the barn when it's done. So that's what we love to do, which I'm sure helps part of that. But just having the Groundhog to use with the machine that we already had, which at the time was a 323D, just being able to add that one attachment, you already own the power unit. You didn't have to buy anything special. We bought the Groundhog and took off. Then we got a bigger machine. Then we got the other Groundhog. So it just kind of kept snowballing, I guess. I love the fix stuff. I saw all the problems with cutting and trenching out of the ground, and I knew I could fix it, and it was a lot of fun, and I liked to play in the dirt with little toys when I was a kid. So I started. I could have been big. I could still be big if I wanted to be big. But I don't have that desire. I had 13 employees, and I've been down that road, and we just wanted to stay in a small niche market. And I think it's more satisfying to stay small and try to accomplish what we can, and enjoy life. And that's what I'm trying to do. We love to move dirt. We love to play in the dirt. We like to see when it's all done, a year or 2 years. That's why I took you around and showed you all the different things that we've done just here real close. That's very satisfying to me to go back and see that it worked. We put in a ditch and it carries the water and there's no erosion. That's a win to me. I really enjoy that. So that's what I've done. Once I finally rode around enough and went, wow, the machine's not screaming at me. The hydraulics aren't whining. If I just take a small pass and go as fast as I can, and then get full by the time I get to the end and turn, and then take it down and dump it, this seems to go way faster, even though you're taking sometimes a 1/4 inch in that hard clay. Once I had gone round and round and round, I would say probably within a half a day, once I got my bullheadedness out of me that said I gotta quit hogging it and just take small bites, within a half a day I was cruising. And I, of course, like to drive fast as skid loader will go, because it's more fun. So that's what I do. Seeing is believing. Believe the videos you see online. I didn't. I kind of questioned whether the dirt that was being cut was as hard as the dirt we have here in Ohio. Once I cut with it, I couldn't believe it. When you run through with a bucket, it would almost stall the machine. I mean, I would literally try to gouge until I was almost stalling the skid loader out. Once I got on this, I was trying to take full depth cuts. That was a little bit too much, and I had a lot of slabbing, and it created a really rough, uneven surface. I was trying to run it at full RPM. It didn't take me, like I said, about a half a day. I realized that I only had to run it at 3/4 RPM. That's where I still run today. We run about 21, 22, 2300 RPMs, and we call it letting it eat. Pete and I have a term, well, we're all set, we're dialed in, the laser's good to go, let's let them eat. And we eat all day long. We eat dirt all day long and move it. Very little stress to the machine. Again, seeing is believing. I didn't believe it until I ran it. I really didn't. I bought it on a whim. It looked like the only thing I had to move 11.5 feet of dirt. The only option without going to buy a very expensive machine to do it. Once we got rolling, it made a believer out of me really quick. That was with a 70 horsepower machine. Now we've got a 70 horsepower and 100 horsepower, and the 100 horsepower is kind of like a toy. It really is. It's nothing. It's almost no stress to it whatsoever. Well, and you can keep your work site smooth. So it's less, not that anybody cares, but it's less operator fatigue. You're not bouncing and beating through the job site all day. When you run the Groundhog and you're taking a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch or whatever it is you're taking over a long distance, side by side by side by side all day long, it seems like it's taking forever, but you're really moving a mountain faster than what you think you are. And you're keeping it smooth, and you're not tired when you get out of the machine. We'll run these machines a lot of times 10, 12 hours a day, the entire month of August, clear through the latter half of September, into October, November if we can, especially once crops come off. Beans October, corn November. We'll go in and start putting in surface drains. I mean, we move from grass waterways to surface drains as soon as the crops come off. And we'll run daylight to dark and after for those months nonstop. So getting beat up in that machine is a big deal to an operator. Yeah. It's a big deal. I mean, I got an air ride seat and that's nice, but it still takes all the jarring and beating and jerking out of you. This spring, we went into it was a road widening project and a straightening project. There was a two back-to-back 90 curves that they wanted to move into a elongated curve, I guess. And basically what we did was they pulled off the asphalt with an excavator. The road base underneath, we panned it all up. I was a little bit nervous because I thought it was gonna tear up my cutting edges. We nicked them, we dinged them, we worked them over, but that wasn't the point. The point was I wanted to see if it could be done. And we picked the old road base up and put it underneath the new road base. So we were able to actually scrape the stone right straight down to the clay and then save all that old stone for that road base. So we saved the township a lot of money by being able to dial that in and just get that stone and turn it over and put it in the new road. As far as hard ground, what we were cutting today was extremely hard ground. Basically, we have a lot of hard, really hard, nasty clay here. The topsoil's real nice. Once you get through that, you're into some very, very, very hard ground. There's a lot of ponds. They're easy to build here. It'll hold water. You don't even have to think about it. I mean, anybody can do it. It's just hard ground. They'll cut anything. I mean, I would say you have to slow down a little bit once you get through the topsoil. I mean, the topsoil, we run at full speed. So our skid loaders run 4.4 mile an hour. We will cut topsoil at 4.4 mile an hour and load it probably, I'd bet 2 inches a pass, as fast as we can move. Once we get that topsoil rolled back, that's when we get into more of the 1/4 inch cuts, 1/2 inch cuts over a longer distance, keeping the speed up as fast as you can. I would say we're probably running 3.8 miles an hour if you want to get real technical, 3.9. If you get going too fast, they get bucking a little bit, and that comes back to the weight of the skid loader. The big machine doesn't buck as much. The 70 horsepower machine will want to start to kind of lift in the middle if you're trying to run 4.4 in hard compacted dirt. But as far as, it'll still cut it. I mean, it's not, I did the same thing. I watched the video and thought, well, that dirt's been panned 40 times because it's out in the backyard of Ashland panned. That was what I thought. I thought, well, they just ripped it all up with a 20-yarder and then put it all back down and then came in with a Groundhog. That's not how it is. I mean, I've been into some stuff that you wouldn't want to dig with a shovel. When we put in a grass waterway that's anywhere near a road, we do a lot of them that are in the middle of a 500-acre field that nobody even knows we're there. When we do one along the road, I have personally counted 9 pickup trucks lined up down the side of the road. All the local farmers wanting to see what in the world is going on and how they're doing this. I've never seen any accidents, but we get a lot of traffic. Sometimes they'll get out and say, I just want to see it. Sometimes they just sit in their truck and watch. We had one guy watch for an hour and a half straight. He would move along with us as we moved down the grass waterway. He would just pull his truck down and put it in park and shut it off and sit there and watch us again. So we get a lot of onlookers that I think are amazed by how it runs. I would be the same. I mean, I'm a skid loader geek too. I love to see that stuff. So yeah, we get a lot of traffic. I'm such a big believer in it that I know, I mean, I can just go cut whatever. If you want to hold it flat for half a mile, we'll hold it flat for half a mile. If you want to put it on a 1% slope for half a mile, we'll put it on a 0.5% slope for half a mile, and we'll do it in a 1/2 inch tolerance. You know, there is no deflection. We really don't find it. We don't see it. Probably the worst time it shows up, and this happens here, especially here because of the glacier, we'll run into a rock. The rock may be the size of that table. At that point, we have to dig that rock out with a hoe, fill all the dirt back in and try to pack it the best we can, and then we get this little, and that's the only thing we ever fight. Other than that, we just don't have it. I mean, it's just smooth and flat for as long as you can hold it. It was a soil and water design from the 1950s. They all went to drop boxes. We did 4,800 feet, 30 feet wide, a foot deep in 40 hours with one Groundhog. We dug it all out, and then in between each lateral of the surface drain, it all got spread back smooth. So the worst part was not the cutting, it was the dumping, and the time-wise, the worst part was dumping and flattening it all out. For that job, there were 2 of us. We had 2 skid loaders. We only had 1 Groundhog. I, for speed, would drop in high speed. So I would kick up to rabbit, dump the dirt, not use this grater blade, and I had Pete coming along behind me smoothing that out, just to try to make time. If I had 2 Groundhogs, I would have done it all with a box grader on the back. I would have slowed down and done it. It's unbelievable. I mean, how fast you can cut and how much you can take. It's all in the speed. You're not carrying a lot of dirt, but you're moving really fast, and your turning time is so quick. You know, there's some jobs that we get into that are so small that you have to cut going forward, back out, jump over here, dump, come back, and you never turn around. All you do is back and forth all day long, especially along a building. We run into some places where there's an open ditch on this side that if you turn, you're going down 20 feet, so you can't take that ride. Just having the ability not to go so quick in that skid loader, it changes everything. It changed it for us anyway. In our eyes, that is the most important part. If we lay down a clumpy, slabby, bouldery type overburden on the edge of our waterway, we have to come back when that waterway is all done and they get the crops off. Then we have to spread and smooth all that out. If we can hold that real nice and crumbly and get a tighter load like you're saying, when we do it now, it's done to grade, finished right at the edge of the waterway. As long as there's enough room to lose all that overburden material, we don't go back. You know, you put it down nice and smooth and powdery, and you're done. There's no settling and voids, and it's easier on the machine. It's easier on the operator. And that was a learning curve. I learned that the hard way. We used to just try to take 2 inches and gouge, and then you're beating yourself up. You got the big clumps in the side of the pan. When you go to lay it back out, you've got a mess. When we take small bites over a long distance as fast as we can, you saw us today, we literally try to run those machines wide open all the time, because the faster we're running, the less we try to take. So the faster we go, we're not trying to gouge in and take the big slabs. So it's just pin it and go, pin it and go, pin it and go, every bowl. That's why we say we just let them eat. I mean, it's a very backwards mentality to take a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch and try to get a 1.5 feet or a foot deep. A 1/4 inch at a time. In your mind, you think it would take forever, but it doesn't. I mean, it's all in how you look at it, I guess. If we get the bottom in and everything's good, and we had a rain event like today, we could probably run by noon tomorrow. Early spring, maybe not. This time of year when the ground's fairly dry, it's soaking up a lot, but it sheets off so quick. And then by running the track machines, we go in, and the first thing we would do tomorrow is go in and just try to peel off a very small, we call it a scum layer, a slime layer. As soon as we get that off, we're rolling, because we can get traction and we're not sinking, and we're up and going. To put the trencher on, put the tile in, take the trencher off, put the Groundhog on, run the ditch down, take the Groundhog off, put the Harley rake on, finish it, take that off, put the seeder on. I can't do that with a dozer. The dozer is very specific. I can't carry it anywhere. I have an ongoing joke with a friend of mine who lives south of here that he does dozer work, and I tell him every day, I'll eat you for lunch, just let me know what day you want to do it. It's having the right attachment, and when it comes to moving that dirt and being able to take it from point A past the line, because we've got to hold this shape and get it out over here and then get it smooth flat in the field, that you're dragging and pushing and scraping so much with a dozer. There's just no comparison. There's no comparison. I don't ever want to go back to a dozer. I had one. It was a great machine. It works great for what they're meant for. But when you can take something of very similar horsepower and put multiple different types of attachments on it, there is no comparison. It opens you up from just being a guy with a dozer to a guy that has, well, you can put this in and this in and this in and this in with the same power unit. So that's, I'll stick with what I got. No thanks on the dozer. When we go to a job site, we'll take the dirt bucket because of rocks, the Harley rake, a skid loader, and the Groundhog. That's the first thing in on every job. When we're done groundhogging, we'll Harley rake, we'll load all that stuff back up, and we come home and get cedar, blanket, go to the job, finish it, come home, we're done. We actually have fold down sides on our truck, and we will put attachments in the bed. So when we take 2 groundhogs and Harley rake, sometimes we'll put the cedar in the bed so that we can do it in 2 trips, get everything there, get it all done, load up, go home. If I had the dozer, we'd have to haul the dozer to the job site. Then you'd have to come back. You'd have to get a tractor, some kind of a spring tooth harrow or something to work that ground down when you're finished. You're still going to have a pile of dirt along the side that you have to get rid of after the crops because it's a big pile of dirt. I would guess it would take 3 to 4 loads to get everything there. I mean, you're talking about broadcasting the seed or hauling a tractor and a spring tooth harrow and some type of a grass planter or a broadcaster. It's a lot of loads. We're doing it. That's probably our big thing is we spend more time trying to figure out how and what we're going to load to go to every job before it ever goes on the trailer. So that we need this and this and this and this. And when we're done with this, the Groundhog and the big machine goes back. I want this back here. We keep one small Groundhog, or the small machine and the Groundhog, one Groundhog pan there, just in case there's something to touch up. But that allows us to get in and out really quick. And that's the name of the game. You're not making any money when you're moving. That's what kills every excavator, is getting all of this stuff from job A to job B. And being able to have something this compact to go on a trailer to get from, I mean, there's times that we'll move it from job to job, and when we're finishing this one, I got a guy over here running this one while I'm finishing this one, and then I come join him, and then we'll just leapfrog job to job that way. To me, they run great. They stay afloat. I've been on, I told you, I've panned in standing water. I've never had them gouge in. I've never had them dig in. I've never had, my tracks will sink before that does, even in a loaded pan situation. To me, they're perfect. There comes a point where it's eroded over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and then that erosion will push the dirt down and create a gigantic pocket, or we call them small ponds. It may be 10, 12, 14 feet long, maybe 20 feet long, 6 foot wide, 8 foot wide, and there'll be standing water in there when we get to the job site. It may have been in there for a month. That water is, there's no way to get it. I can't wait till it dries up, because it may not ever dry up, because that might just be a spot that holds water. So until we release that water on the back side going downhill, that water's in there. So what we do is we pan on grade right up to that water, and then we cut it loose. And when we cut it loose, that water, then we get to play in the water. From that point on, you just start dealing with it. I can't imagine not having a track loader. I don't even think you could do it. I really don't. I don't think there would be any way possible. Maybe somebody prove me wrong, but we just kind of float right through that water. Once we get it cut free, sometimes we have to wait a little while to let that dry up, maybe a day. Sometimes we can keep right on cutting. If we can keep cutting, we try to keep cutting. And once you get on the top side of that water, you may have to come back and touch that little spot up, but you get through it and then keep right on rolling. So I don't think it can be done without any kind of track machine. Well, of course, we hook and unhook multiple times a day to move them, moving them around here at the shop. You drive in, lay into the plate, lock it down. Probably the only trick really is the hydraulics, which is on any hydraulic, anything. As soon as we get them latched in, we leave down on the grader box. I always put the bowl down on the floor. Anytime I stop and I'm going to unhook it, I put the bowl on the floor so it doesn't bind up the hydraulics. And then we jump out, plug the hoses in, and go. I think I can hook one up in probably 30 seconds. I don't know. Really, really fast. Really fast. It's hard to believe until you try it. Once you've tried it, you'll never be without it. It goes to almost every job we do, unless we're just flat out digging something with an excavator. It's not hard on the machine. It's everything they say it is. It's fast cutting. It holds extremely tight tolerance. It's smooth. It's not hard on the machine whatsoever. And I'd recommend it to anybody. I really would. I mean, if you're doing any kind of dirt moving at all, I can't imagine not having one with what I have. I mean, I know there's jobs out there for great big machines. We're doing humongous jobs, but when you're doing what we're doing, I'll never be without one again, ever. You got a lifelong customer, I promise you that. But I'm that impressed with it. I really am. This thing is very well built. Knock on wood, we've had very few failure issues. General wear parts, we've replaced cutting edges, we've replaced cylinders on our old one, and like I said, that's literally millions of yards of dirt. The apron issue with the wheels, which is taken care of, that's a piece of cake. Other than that, we're on the same bowl, the same box, same wheels, same walking beam, same everything. So it's pretty maintenance free, other than some grease and let it eat. Yeah, I had a 323D, 2006. I don't really remember what year that was. I bought the Groundhog. We started in. On that job that we took the 11.5 feet on, I owned one skid loader and one mini excavator. In order to level the dirt and keep Pete busy, he was helping me part-time. He ran my mini excavator with a blade on the front. And we put a boatload of hours of him just trying to help groom down and dress down and pack down all that loose material I was putting down in that ditch. Very quickly I realized that I need to get a second skid loader because of the Groundhog. I mean, it's a good and bad situation. It's bad if you have to spend the money, but it's good because you have that much work. Really quickly we went from a 323. I decided we should add a bigger machine, higher horsepower, higher flow rates for the mowing and everything else we're doing, the trenching. Once we got to 333, we started doing all the pan work on the 333. The 323 just kind of did the Harley rake and the bucket work. And we got more waterways and more open ditches and more surface drains and more road ditches. And I decided last summer that I was going to buy a second Groundhog. Now we find ourselves taking that skid loader off to put the Harley rake on. So the next thing would be to add another guy, another skid loader, and then you would have two Groundhogs running, plus you would have a machine free to do the cleanup work, I guess you'd say, the pretty up work. So yeah, it absolutely took me from one guy with one mini and one skid loader to two guys, two skid loaders and a mini. That one attack, I mean, I don't know that I would to this day own two skid loaders, because what are you going to do with two skid loaders? You're going to get in each other's way. Where this just changes everything. I mean, you saw today. I mean, we'll run side by side within probably 2 to 3 inches. Yeah, boom. Yep, and we're looking at each other doing this, hand signals up, down. I'll get this side, you get this side, and we just constantly roll, constantly. We've done like that big parking lot. It was 180 feet wide, 260 feet long. 1 foot deep stone job, 2,600 ton of stone. We cut all the topsoil out, stockpiled it, then cut the clay down and built it all the way around the edges so that you had a sheet flow situation in a rain. The water, it all had under drainage and tile, but we cut all that in 8 hours. That's rocking and rolling. We did use the 50. We used the 50 and literally just zipped off all the topsoil as fast as we could. Left us with a little bit of a rougher edge coming into it than what we were used to. But one pass over with the Groundhogs, we were smooth, and you literally started. It was a 1.25% slope this direction, 0.5 this way. We would start at the front, pan to the back, turn the corner, drop the edge, come down, drop back in, take off, and we peeled this side down. And as soon as we were done, we reset the laser and peeled that side down. And you can do a building pad so fast it's not even funny. I'm not trying to sound like it's minuscule work. We're used to cutting ditches a foot deep, 40 feet wide, 1,000, 2,000 feet long. We go to a building pad job and it's like a walk in the park for us. I mean, you're just cutting it flat and you just follow the laser all the way up, and within a day we're usually packed up and going home. It's kind of hard to say right now. We're getting into that. Depends on how much room we have to move. The job we're on today is about as tight as I would even want to think about taking that tractor to. I've got to peel it into the road ditch, come up, miss the corn on the other side. But I think there's so much dead time in coming out of the end and traveling, getting turned around, coming back, turning back around, getting lined up straight for the cut, where I can line up the Groundhog to get straight with my cut in like 8 feet, you know, and I'm in there. Where a tractor, that thing's following you around, and then you're, I got to get back over here. And so I struggle with how much time it takes me, especially when Pete's running that Groundhog and I watch him dump and I'm right in front of him and I have to swing out, and all of a sudden he's already back there, and then I've got to get behind him. He's already cutting and I'm still trying to get straightened away. That really bothers me as an owner and an operator. The Groundhog is just so fast. I mean, just to get lined up that quick. I think I can move more dirt faster with the 50 size machine. Obviously it's 5 yards, and when the other thing we haven't really talked about is when I'm taking it over a longer distance, that 50 is huge. And I learned that this spring on Easter weekend. I would literally, I would look at Pete, he's in the Groundhog, you haul this close dirt, I'm hauling all that over there. So I would haul clear across the property, and that changed everything for us. That's where that's where the pull type really outshines the Groundhog. That's to me, and that I know that's not cutting, and that's but that Groundhog, if you're hauling close, you saw it today. We were getting close, and I just jumped out of the tractor and jumped in the Groundhog. We see a lot of other contractors, and they'll do a great big building. We got a great big warehouse going in up here. You see them going with the great big self-propelled scrapers, and they make the pad, and that's what they're meant to do. When it's all said and done and they have to bring that topsoil back over, and they're starting to lay the topsoil between the drives and you know, along the parking lot, what I'm watching them do is they dig it all up with a hydro hoe, they're loading it in a dump truck, they haul it over to the area that's going to be seeded, they dump the truck, a guy's out there with a great big dozer, and he's trying to shove it around and pack it all in. And we've literally stopped and timed that. So I don't know exactly how many yards are getting in this, and it's a road truck. I don't know how many yards are getting in that road truck. But Pete and I are counting as we're doing this, and I'll say, well, we'd have had a pan loaded by now. Now we'd have had the pan dumped. We'd have had it already stroke level and done, and we're going to get the next pan full. I think there's a whole lot of finish work that can be done with this that isn't being used by the big contractors. That's my own belief. I think it's actually probably insane. I mean, you'll see they'll build a mound of topsoil when they start the job, and then they don't come back and strip that mound with a great big scraper because you're in between a new asphalt parking lot with the light poles and the this and that, and they're trying to put that topsoil down. So they go in with a hoe, they dig it, they load it in a truck, they drive it over, they dump it on the ground, they're trying to smear it around, and then one guy with a skid loader trying to push it up along the edges, and we would have been done and gone. I mean, we would have been seeded, finished, Harley raked, packed up and out of there by the time they get it all moved. And I really believe that. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things that I see is that if there's a skid loader on the job, it's kind of a no-brainer to utilize something like that to do that finish work. There again, you're not really cutting per se, you're filling. That's the difference between the grader box. You know, you're hauling material there, you're not hurting anything on the driveway or the new asphalt driveway or concrete driveway. We are kind of in a niche with the open ditches. Yeah. I think the road ditch work is something that's really kind of opened up for us in the last little over a year. Because we did the big waterway, I mean, that's a 30-foot wide ditch. We've kind of transitioned into more helping widen roads and moving that road ditch back. That's something new. I would have never thought we could have got a Groundhog into a road ditch and made it work, but we're making it work. We're doing it actually quite a bit.